Hi, everyone. Welcome to our workshop on professionalism and interviewing. My name is Teresa Hunziker. I'm an admissions counselor with AT Still University. So we work really closely with prospective applicants that are applying to all of our programs. We help them with mock interviews and things like that and kind of walk them through professionalism as well. So we just wanted to share some of those tips with you.
Hi, I'm Amanda Selby. I'm also an admissions counselor here at ATSU.
So we have a presentation that we'll go through just to talk about, like I said, professionalism and interviewing. So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen and then we'll go through the presentation and we'll have some time at the end if you have any questions. We'll also be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions that you want to ask through the chat, feel free to ask those and then we'll try to answer them either through the presentation or afterwards. Okay.
Make sure I can see it.
Can everybody see the presentation? I'll take that as a yes. Elizabeth, can you see the presentation?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So welcome to our professionalism bootcamp. Can you see us as well or just the presentation?
The presentation is now the big screen and you guys are one of the small boxes in the corner.
Okay, perfect. So welcome to our professionalism bootcamp. We'll start off just by talking a little bit about the importance of professionalism. Amanda, if you want to go ahead and start it off.
Yeah, absolutely. So professionalism is something that you're going to use in your everyday life. You're going to use it when you're applying for jobs, whether those are full-time or part-time. You're going to use it if you're applying to any type of academic program or if you're applying for a scholarship. And it really is something that we have to practice. Otherwise, it's hard to get that habit going. So the more you practice it, the easier it is to build it into a habit.
So the importance of professionalism. Professionalism is really important because it adds value to the workplace. So professional employees, they're going to benefit through having a strong reputation, having success, and just morally. And it's going to apply to companies, to schools, and to organizations. Your image is also going to be affected by your interactions and your experiences with other people. So it's really important to put a strong professional image out there when you're interacting with your customers, your coworkers, your peers, your supervisors, and anybody else within the workplace. Behaving professionally around some people but not others can lead to an image of dishonesty and the inability to form appropriate relationships. So it's your professional image can also be affected by your physical appearance, your language, your motivation, your timeliness, and your respect for privacy. A professional takes pride in their work. It could include school projects, work that you completed at your job, or even work that you complete for hobbies. It can also demonstrate your pride and quality of the work that you produce. And then professionalism is most importantly an attitude. It's how you choose to present yourself to other people. So a professional attitude is an attitude that's positive, that's respectful. Professional attitudes include being open to critical feedback and being mindful of your actions when you're upset or when you don't agree with somebody. Professional attitudes also, they may take time to develop. So if it doesn't come quickly, that's okay. It's going to take some time and it happens through maturity as well.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about first impressions and why they're so important. So the first impression, it's made within a matter of seconds. I think about 30 seconds is the average. And once it's formed, it's very, very difficult to change a first impression. So you want to be mindful of this when you're meeting new people. And there are a lot of different factors that contribute to your first impression. So your appearance is one, it's important. It doesn't mean that you always have to look like a model, but what it does mean is that you need to be well groomed. You need to wear clothes that fit well. You would need to be dressed appropriately for the situation you're in. And we're going to talk a little bit more about dress code later on in the presentation. So another factor that contributes to your first impression is body language. So think about how you're presenting yourself. So are you slouching and do you look bored, or are you energetic and engaged and awake? So those are two different ways that you can present yourself. Smiling is always a good way to make a good first impression, because when you smile, you look confident, you look personable, and it usually puts other people at ease. So just make sure that it's a genuine smile and not a cheesy smile, because if you're faking, people are going to be able to tell. So your mannerisms, they also influence the first impression. So this could include if you're late or if you're on time. My personal motto is, if I'm early, I'm on time. If I'm on time, I'm late. And if I'm late, I'm in trouble. So try to be genuine. So it's important that you balance fitting in with the situation, but then also being yourself. So it's finding that balance between acting appropriately for the situation you're in, but still being true to yourself. You can make small talk with others to keep conversations flowing, and this also adds to their overall perception of your confidence and your energy level. Having a positive and upbeat manner and attitude, those contribute to good first impressions. So your attitude includes using good manners, please and thank you, being courteous to others. If you come across as rude or snobby, that can ruin any chance of a positive first impression. And like we said, it's almost impossible to change a first impression. So make sure that you're giving people your full attention, so you're not playing on your phone or being distracted. And those are all factors that help contribute to a positive first impression.
So when you're looking at making positive first impressions, there are some things that you really need to think about as key points or reminders. So first of all, punctuality is extremely important, like Amanda was saying. Make sure that you're on time. Being early is on time. When you're coming in for an interview, typically it's appropriate to be about 10 minutes early. You don't want to be 30 minutes early. Or an hour early. You don't want to be too much of an early bird, but you want to make sure that you're early enough to where you're not worried about getting close to that time period of the interview starting. You also want to make sure that you're presenting yourself appropriately for the situation. So make sure that you're dressing and you're acting appropriately. If you're going to a very professional interview, then you dress business professionally. If you're going in for a day at the office and it's business casual, make sure that you're dressing business casual. The way that you dress is really going to play into that first impression aspect, and it's going to set the tone for the rest of the time period. It's also really important to be yourself, to be genuine. You can be professional and be genuine at the same time. You don't have to be that stuffy, always on point type of personality. If you're someone that's more reserved or more laid back, you can still show yourself and be genuine while also being professional. It's also really, really important to have a positive personality, and don't forget to smile. Show your personality, be positive. Make sure that you're interacting with other individuals in an upbeat manner, because people that are around someone that's upbeat are going to be more likely to be upbeat as well. Also, be confident. Show that you know what you're doing. You don't want to do it too much. You don't want to come across as someone that is overly confident or someone that is, for lack of a better term, cocky. You want the person that you're interacting with to feel confident that you know what you're doing, and that you have confidence in yourself. And then it's also important to, going along with smiling, to portray that positive personality, that positive attitude. So remember, again, first impressions are really important. You only get to meet someone once, so you want to make sure that that first impression matters. When you're interacting with others, make sure that you're polite and you're attentive in that meeting. So it might mean putting away things that could be distracting, like your telephone, or your cell phone, sorry. Your cell phone or anything else that might be distracting to you. It might also mean showing nonverbal communication. So if you're talking to somebody, nodding whenever you understand something, or just making sure that you're interacting with them and not just listening and sitting there and being kind of a stone wall in that sense. And as you can see from the picture that we have in the slide, you can be yourself and still present yourself professionally. It's all about context and being appropriate in the situation.
All right, so moving on to dress code. So different situations call for different dress. Something that's appropriate for an interview at McDonald's is not the same as what's going to be appropriate for an interview, maybe for a scholarship or a college application. So dressing professionally will, it's not going to make you interview better or be a better person, but it's going to give you stronger presentation, and it will make your audience perceive you in a positive light. So when you're choosing professional dress, such as a suit, keep it classic and avoid the trendy stuff, because trends come and go, but classic always stays. So wild pinstripes might be in this year and probably not going to be in next year. So when you're paying for really expensive suits, like a really nice suit, you don't want to have something that you can only wear one time and then it's going to be out of style. So keep it classic. Neutral colors are always good. So make sure that you're, sorry, I totally got lost here.
So in terms of details, make sure that you're keeping track of not just your overall appearance, but the smaller details as well.
Right. So, and the nice thing about that too is, like, you don't always have to wear a suit. So like, you can dress up a pair of jeans with a nice collared shirt or a blazer, but you need to make sure that it's appropriate for the situation. So the small details too, making sure that you keep your hair clean and brushed. Ladies, you need to keep the makeup simple, avoid really flashy statement jewelry. Make sure your nail polish isn't chipped or too flashy. I'm usually guilty of that one.
Try to keep your nails not super long. Keep them nice and trimmed.
Yeah, keep them clean, flipped or filed. Make sure that your shoes are free of any mud or stains. Things like that are pretty common knowledge, but if you don't think about it, you might be caught off guard. So if you develop your good grooming habits early, you don't have to worry about being caught off guard. So make sure you're dressed for the situation. So some interviews or settings will be more casual than others. So if you are not sure, just ask what the dress code is. If you're unable to ask what the dress code is, then it's usually a good idea to dress a little bit more professional than casual. So just to be on the safe side. So I'd rather see someone show up in a slacks and a collared shirt instead of jeans and a t-shirt. So this other one may sound a little bit strange, but you need to practice wearing professional dress, because it's not something that we do all the time, and we tend to feel uncomfortable in strange clothes. So it's good to become used to wearing a suit, used to how you sit in a suit, shaking hands in suits. Ladies, making sure that you are aware of how you sit if you're wearing a skirt. Just practice it, and you'll feel a lot more comfortable when you go to put it on.
So there are, like Amanda kind of mentioned before, there are a number of different levels of dress for either an interview, for a job, for really any situation that you're going to be in. You're going to have 4 different levels of dress that you're going to have. The first is casual. So typically that's jeans, t-shirt, whatever you're comfortable in, tennis shoes. The next step up would be business casual. Business casual is usually what's appropriate for most office positions and some interviews, but it really just depends on what you're interviewing for. So business casual is going to be dress pants, a nice shirt, and nice shoes. So that's typically what business casual is, no jeans. Business professional is what you're going to wear for most of your interviews. So anything any type of an interview to where you're trying to be in a professional environment, whether it be interviewing for a scholarship or for a graduate school or for a job that's in more of a professional setting, you're going to dress business professionally. So that's going to be a suit and tie. So men, suit, ties, nice dress shoes. Ladies, dress pants and a nice business casual shirt with a suit top over it, and then probably closed toe shoes, or a skirt if you prefer a skirt. I mean, whatever you'd rather have. But definitely a suit would be business professional. And then formal isn't necessarily going to be something that you're going to need to dress in. That's going to be more so, I mean, just a step up from business professional. Business professional and business casual are probably where you're going to fall in most frequently.
Yeah, I think of business casual as, you know, a part-time job interview at like a fast food restaurant or a local grocery store, things like that. Professional is going to be if you think you want to go to medical school and you're interviewing at colleges or universities, or maybe even if you interview for a collegiate sports team, probably professional. The only time I would really think you would do formal in an interview would be if you've gone through medical school and you're like in a residency and you're interviewing and they take you out to dinner as part of an interview. That's probably the only time you would have to worry about formal as far as interview settings. Okay, so this next slide, we're going to see if we can get this to work or not. So we want you to guess whether you think it's casual, business casual, or professional. So I want you guys to, have a picture come up, and then once you guys said chat, type in the chat what you think it is, and hopefully we can see your chat.
And Elizabeth, if we're not able to, I wonder if you could let us know what the chats say, and then it might work that way.
Yeah, no problem.
Perfect. Yay.
Right. Number one, do we think this is casual, business casual, or professional?
And just use those three. Formal is not going to be an example in any of these. So
There are no trick questions.
yes. All right, what do we think?
We have a business casual, two business casuals.
Are they right, Amanda?
Awesome, they are correct. Business casual, mostly because he doesn't have a suit jacket on. So this is probably like an upper end business casual.
Yep.
But not quite enough to be professional.
It would still be considered business casual if he didn't have a tie on. So the tie kind of makes it more of an upper level business casual, but definitely not business professional.
All right, next. What do we feel this one is?
They're saying casual.
Ding, 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 ding. They are correct. I gave that one to you guys. That was an easy one.
So as you can see, it's casual because they're wearing jeans. And the shirt is also casual. He's wearing it pretty casually too. You can see the sleeves are pulled up. And the shoes could be considered dressy, but the jeans definitely make it casual.
All right. Do we think casual, business casual, or professional?
Professional is what they are saying.
Yes, correct. So we've got our suit jacket, our tie, our nice collared shirt. You can tell that he has the sleeves down all the way, so they're coming out of his jacket. His pants are a good length, so his socks aren't showing. But if his socks do show, if he sits down, hopefully he has on long, dark colored socks, no ankle socks. And he could also have, what's the pin on the tie? The tie clip too,
Yes.
to help. I don't know if it's actually called a tie clip, to help hold the tie in place. So, all right, let's try some for the ladies. Do we think this is casual, business casual, or professional?
The vote is business casual.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, I'd say this is the lower end of business casual because looks like she's got some skinny jeans on. You can see quite a bit of her feet, but she's still wearing closed-toed shoes. But she still has a nice professional shirt. She's got it tucked in. So yeah, definitely a business casual. What do you think about this one?
Casual.
Very good. So she's definitely trying to dress up the jeans because she's got a nice blazer on with her button-up shirt. But like the picture above, the jeans definitely make it casual. The last one, do we think this is casual, business casual, or professional?
They chose professional.
Absolutely. So yeah, she's got a nice suit, nice collared shirt. She doesn't have any flashy jewelry on. Closed-toed shoes. My only complaint with her is that she probably should have hose or tights on, but otherwise she's definitely professional. All right, good job, guys.
Good job, everybody. If we had prizes and could hand them out, we would. All right, so to talk a little bit more about professional behavior, your behavior in different situations is really going to matter. When you're in a workplace or professional school environment, professional behavior is something that you really have to have, because again, it goes back to that first impressions make a difference. If you don't behave professionally, especially during your first impression or just interacting with others, it's going to make a negative impact on the individuals that you're around. So this includes being courteous to everybody that you interact with, and just being friendly and a nice person to work with. Responsibility and reliability, along with your integrity, are considered professional behavior. So you need to have those in order to be professional. This includes respecting others, respecting rules and policies, and respecting property. So don't be like the picture, please, oh please. Don't have your flip-flops hanging off of some of the furniture, leaning back in your chair, throwing in a paper airplane at your coworker. I mean, this is definitely the extreme, but the idea is that you want to make sure that you're respecting the property that you're using, and that you're respecting the people that are around you, and you're showing integrity whenever you're anywhere in the workplace. It could be in your position as an employee at McDonald's or Walmart, or it could be whenever you're working in an office environment or whenever you're in graduate school. So it's really important, no matter the environment, to be professional and be courteous. Whenever we talk about, I mean, from our viewpoint, healthcare professionals, they're held to a really strict code of ethics. So it's always important to display ethical behavior, whether it's in the classroom, in the field, at work, or interacting with your peers. So it's really important not just to respect others, but to be ethical whenever you're interacting with other people and making decisions. It's also important to be organized. Think of how you would look if somebody came into your office and papers were covering your desk and everything was just disheveled and not organized at all. They'd probably wonder what the heck's going on and whether or not you're on top of your game. So you want to make sure that you are organized. Also, whenever it comes to time commitments. So if you, let's say you missed an appointment at work, a meeting, or you were late to your first shift, how's that going to look to everybody else that you're working with, to your supervisor? It's really important to make sure that you're organized and timely whenever we're talking about professionalism. So, and then finally, it's important to be poised. So whenever you are interacting with others and trying to show professionalism, you need to make sure that you're maintaining your poise. It can be hard to do, but avoid resorting to being belligerent or unprofessional. Make sure that you're taking the high road. If you have someone that doesn't agree with you or that's trying to cause conflict, make sure that you show that professionalism and that poise in interactions with them.
Okay, so we're going to do another little poll thing. So these next slides, we're going to give you a statement, and you're going to say yes, professional, or no, not professional. So just a yes or no answer is fine. So our first statement.
If it'll pop up.
There
There we go.
Ignoring a casual email from a coworker or classmate. Is that professional or not professional?
What's the consensus?
Well, we have one professional, two not professional, I believe.
Yeah, this one was kind of a tough one. So it kind of goes back to respecting other people's time and other people's efforts. So we really shouldn't ever ignore communication from coworkers. And I know the casual probably threw it off. So if it was just a funny picture, maybe we probably don't have to answer it, but it's always a good habit to respond to people, at least acknowledge, that was funny.
And it goes along with being respectful of your coworkers. It's typically can show disrespect if you don't respond to something that they send you. So even if it's a response of, thanks for the email, let's chat about this after work.
Mm-hmm.
Something so that they know that you did receive it and you're not ignoring them.
Mm-hmm. That was maybe kind of a trick question. All right. So professional or not, you become defensive when a teacher or boss criticizes your work. You worked really, really hard on a project and they had some constructive criticism and it really kind of got you on your guard. Do you think that's professional behavior or not?
The verdict is not professional.
Correct. So being aware of situations, like Teresa was saying, taking the high road, this could be something that's difficult. It's easy for us to want to defend our work. So it can take some practice learning how to keep your emotions out of it and just graciously accept critical feedback and then go on. So sleeping in the back of a classroom while the lights are dim for a presentation. You're in the very back of the classroom. You're not bothering anyone. You're not distracting anyone. The lights are dim. Teacher probably can't even see you. Is this professional or not?
They're saying it is not professional.
Correct. So again, about respecting other people's time and efforts. If you are in a classroom, you owe it to the instructor to pay attention to them. They are taking their time and energy to teach you, so you need to reciprocate that time and energy to pay attention. Blaming the poor outcome of your work on others. You had a really lazy group for your school project, or your coworker messed up someone's order, it wasn't your fault. Is that professional or not professional?
Not professional.
Good job. Yeah. Again, taking the high road, being professional, and this is why professionalism really is something that you have to work at, because again, your first instinct is probably going to be, it's not my fault, whether or not it was. That's just human nature. But being aware of being in a professional situation, you need to graciously take blame, and then even ask your supervisor what you can do better next time. So taking responsibility. All right, last one. Asking your classmate if they heard the latest rumor about a school principal. Is this professional or not professional behavior?
They chose not professional.
Correct. So anytime you have gossiping, it's never professional. This also touches a little bit on those ethics. So is it really ethical to be talking about, leadership in your institution? Probably not. So again, habits that take time and maturity to develop, but the sooner you can start being aware of that, the sooner you can start developing those habits.
Okay, so professionalism doesn't just show in how you interact with others in the workplace, it also shows in your communication. There are a lot of different ways that you can communicate with people. It's anything from obvious just talking back and forth to someone to nonverbal cues. So it's really important to have strong both verbal and nonverbal communication in order to create an environment of trust with your coworkers, and just to work more efficiently and effectively together. Whenever you have open lines of communication and positive communication with each other, it just builds a stronger team and a stronger environment. So it's really important to be able to adapt your style based on who you're interacting with. For example, if you're interacting with your friends, you're probably going to talk in more of a casual communication style. So you might use slang, or just talk a little bit more casually.
LOL.
Yes, LOL, or
JK.
JK, or what's up, or things like that. When you are talking to your coworkers or to your teacher or to your supervisor, please, please, please don't use slang. Make sure that you're talking in more of a professional style. Nonverbal communication is just as important as verbal communication. So nonverbal communication can be anything from your facial expressions. So maybe frowning whenever your supervisor says something that you don't agree with. Gestures, eye contact. Maybe somebody, if your teacher is talking to you and you're not looking at them, you're looking at your friend making funny gestures behind the teacher. That's not necessarily positive nonverbal communication. Your posture, slouching versus sitting up. Maybe sleeping in the back of the room versus sitting up and being attentive during the presentation. Or even the tone of your voice, so how you talk. You want to make sure that whenever you're talking to somebody, you have inflections, you show excitement, you're not just being kind of blah and monotone whenever you're talking to them. When you're talking to your employers, to other universities or professionals on the phone, it's really important to have really good phone etiquette. Refer to yourself by your first and last name. So don't just say, hey, Dr. So-and-so, I'm Teresa. How you doing? Don't start a phone conversation like that. Make sure that you refer to yourself with your first and last name. If you're interacting with someone on the phone and they have a title, make sure to use that full title. So if you have a professor who has a PhD, make sure to refer to them as doctor and their last name. And again, use your first and last name as well. Make sure that you're speaking clearly so that if somebody has trouble understanding you, they're able to hear you. So speak more slowly, not more loudly, because sometimes if you speak more loudly on the phone, then they'll take offense to that. So just make sure that you're speaking clearly and so that they can very easily understand you.
It also distorts your voice too. So if anybody has ever had trouble talking on the phone to grandma or grandpa, it's our habit, our natural response to want to speak louder, but that actually just makes it worse because it distorts your voice. So usually speaking a little bit slower will help solve that problem.
When you're placing any phone calls, it's also important to keep in mind what time zone they're in. This is especially important whenever if you're applying to, say, a graduate program. or medical school, and you're dealing with schools that are all across the country, make sure that you're not calling someone at 6 o'clock in the morning, their time, or at 8 o'clock at night, their time. So make sure that it's falling within their business hours. I would also not recommend making phone calls at 8 o'clock in the morning, first thing in the morning, or really close to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Because typically that first hour and that last hour, people are either starting their day or wrapping up their day. So that's usually the grace period. So make sure that you're trying to get it within the bulk of the business day whenever you're calling them. It's also really important to have strong writing skills and written communication whenever you're interacting professionally. They're a reflection of you and the company that you're working for or the school that you're attending. When you're writing, make sure that you're clear, you're concise, you're accurate, and you're objective. You want to avoid cliches because they can very easily be misunderstood, and usually they just kind of clutter up your writing. So if you've ever heard of people having fluff in their writing, cliches are usually fluff. So I wouldn't even include them in any of your writing. So when you're writing essays or personal statements for applications, just be very clear and concise, and don't use quotes, don't use cliches, anything that would take away from the importance of what you're trying to say. Also avoid abbreviations because they're not always the same to everyone else. So if you have the option, just spell it out. Don't necessarily use that abbreviation. It's really important to consider your audience too. When you're writing something, make sure that you're writing to the appropriate skill level or reading level for your audience. So if you're writing, say, a personal statement for graduate school, make sure that your writing is very professional. Whereas if you're writing an essay or something for a creative writing contest, then that's going to be more creative and not necessarily as professional. It's really, really, really important in any writing that you do to proofread. So usually what I say is you proofread, then you proofread again, then you send it to somebody else to proofread, then you send it to somebody else to proofread. And then there are probably going to be other mistakes that you're going to find. So make sure that you're proofreading and make sure that you're sending it to someone else, whether it be your professor, whether it be a friend, whether it be a counselor, somebody that can take a look at it, know what they're looking at, and tell you whether or not it's something that has errors or that is along the lines of what you should be writing. I can't tell you how many times I've seen essays and things that have had typos or misspellings, and it just makes me cringe because I'm just like, if you would just have had someone else read this, they would have very easily caught it. When you're using email to communicate, make sure that you always include a professional signature. Make sure that you're using, or that you're avoiding using abbreviations or the smiley face. So you want to make sure that you're professional, again, in that communication. Don't email like you would text. It's really, really important that you don't do that. So no LOLs, no JKs, no thanks with an X. Make sure that you're very professional in your email communication and that you have, again, that signature that has your contact information. Because when you're sending an email, it's just as important for that person who's receiving it to be able to contact you back. If they want to give you a call, make sure that you put your phone number in your signature, and make sure that your voicemail is set up and is not full, especially if you're interviewing anywhere, because chances are if they're interested in you, they're going to call you back. Along those lines as well, just since I'm on the topic of voicemails, make sure that your voicemail is a professional greeting. So don't have music playing. Don't have a fun joke as your voicemail. Make sure that it's very professional, that it says whose voicemail they're reaching, and that it directs them on what to do so that you can get a hold of them.
That also reminds me about your email address too.
Yes.
It's usually a good idea to set up an email specifically for whether it's job applications or school applications, something that's professional. So maybe your name, or something that's easy. You don't want to have a cute little email address like girlygirl13 or something like that. So try to have a professional email address, and I give that one out whenever you're filling out applications, and check it regularly. So you could have a professional email, and then you can have your fun email for other things.
Also, going along the lines of written communication, handwritten thank you notes are a really good way to show your appreciation after an interview. You can also send an email thank you, but sometimes a handwritten thank you card just shows that you care and you've gone to the ends of actually handwriting a thank you note and sending it to them. So I would go ahead and take the time to write a thank you card and send it in to whoever it is that was interviewing you. Or, I mean, just anyone that you want to show that appreciation to. It's really important to show appreciation after you've been given an opportunity. So again, that can be through email or through written communication. Okay, so we're going to do some communication, true or false. So this is going to be another interactive. What we'll do is we'll put something up and just let us know if you think it's true or it's false about communication. So first, positive communication creates trust. True or false?
They said true.
Correct.
Good job. So again, whenever you communicate positively with someone, it's going to open those lines of communication and that line of trust with them. So communication styles change based on your audience. True or false?
They chose true again.
Good job. So you want to make sure that you're keeping in mind who you're talking to, who you are writing to, and that you speak to their level of communication and their style of communication. Eye contact is a form of nonverbal communication. True or false?
True.
Good job. So it's really important to have eye contact with people that you're interacting with. It shows them that you're engaged, that you're interested. If you are not forming that eye contact and not looking at them, then it really makes them think that you are just not interested at all in what they have to say. Listening is not a communication skill. True or false?
They said false.
Correct. Listening is a communication skill that you are using right now. So it's really important to listen, and when you're interacting with people, to actively listen. And that's showing while you're interacting with them that you are paying attention, whether it be nodding, whether it be responding to them as they talk. You should express appreciation when someone offers you professional advice. True or false?
They chose true.
Good job. It is really important, like I said before, to send either a thank you card or a thank you email just to show your appreciation. And that's with interviewing or whenever someone offers you some sort of professional advice. Finally, cliches add personality to your communication and should be used in a professional setting.
They picked false.
Good job. Don't use cliches. If you're writing a creative essay, then, I mean, go for it. But if you're writing in a professional setting, do not use cliches. They're just fluff.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit briefly about the interview. I know we've got about 10-15 minutes left. So There are many different situations that you may find yourself in that require an interview. Typically, employment requires an interview. Some college application processes require an interview. Some scholarship selection processes will make you come in to interview. Definitely, if you're applying to professional school, that's going to be an interview. So some volunteer positions make you come in to interview to make sure that you're going to be a good fit for their organization. And sometimes leadership positions and clubs or organizations may require an interview. And then you also may have informal interviews. And these are ones that just kind of pop up with maybe your job shadowing, and you get to play interviewee or interviewer and ask the person you're shadowing some questions to figure out if the career is right for you. So those informal interviews can pop up sometimes when you're having a professional conversation with someone. So how you behave during the interview is very important to your success. So remember those first impressions. So you need to be positive, polite, and professional to everyone you encounter during the interview. So this means that you say hello and introduce yourself to the receptionist or the secretary or anyone else that you encounter during your interview time.
And going along with that, don't think that secretaries or receptionists don't have a say in whether or not you're going to get a position, because they definitely do. So anyone that you're around, and this goes for also any graduate school interviews that you might go to, if you're interacting with student ambassadors, if you're interacting with anyone on campus, always put your best foot forward, because they will all have a say, and they'll remember if you're not behaving professionally.
Be appropriate, so be mindful of your wardrobe choice. Make sure that all your tags and strings are cut off of your suit jackets and your skirts. So a big one we see people miss is the little, what's it called? The X string on the back of a suit jacket.
Oh, yes.
Or a skirt. Those do need to be cut. So the vent, those need to be cut. So, make sure that you have appropriate shoes for the amount of walking that you're going to be doing. For graduate program interviews, a lot of those include a campus tour, and you definitely do not want to be touring campus in stilettos. Make sure your shirts aren't too tight or that they're too low cut. Make sure you have an undershirt on so that when you sit down and you get the button gap, you've cut a shirt underneath that. Practice your handshake. This is another really important behavior during the interview. So your handshake should be firm. You need to wrap your thumb and finger all the way around the other person's hand. Don't crush bones, but make sure you've got some pressure there. And then a good rule of thumb is to pump your hands 3 or 4 times while you're maintaining eye contact and smiling. Introduce yourself again with first name and last name. Always address your interviewers by their name and their appropriate title, especially when you're greeting them or saying goodbye to them. So we call these types of titles honorific, and they might include Dr., Mr., Mrs., Miss. Just make sure that you're using those titles. Typically, if someone doesn't want you to address them by a title, they'll tell you that. So,
and a good indicator is if they have sent you an email to invite you in for an interview and it's come directly from them, typically their signature will have their title in it and how they like to be addressed. So using that as a good guide will help you too.
Yeah, and that's, again, another time where that active listening can come in to play, because I've called professors before and I said, "Hi, Dr. Morris, this is Amanda Selby from ATSU Admissions," and then they'd be like, "Oh, hi, Amanda, this is Amy." So now I know I can refer to them by their name instead of their title. Wait until your interviewer asks you to have a seat, or you can ask them where they would prefer that you sit. Don't just plop down. Make sure that your phone is turned off, or even better, that it's not even in the room with you. If your phone does go off during an interview, do not answer it. Don't look at the screen. Just do your best to turn it off and apologize to the interviewer. So this can really be detrimental. You've got to have some amazing qualities or skills going for you to overcome your phone going off in the middle of an interview. Make sure that you are taking time to think before you answer. So it might feel like several minutes in your head when really it's only been a few seconds. So make sure you have a question formulated before you answer.
And it's okay to take a second to collect yourself if you don't have an answer right away whenever you're asked a question. It's going to sound better if you take a minute and figure out what your answer is going to be than if you just start rattling something off that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and you can even say, that's an excellent question. Can I have a moment to think about that? After your interview, express your continued interest in the job or program as long as it's genuine. If you go through the interview and you feel like it's not a good fit, you don't have to fake that, but you definitely, if you do feel that it's a good fit for you, want to continue to express that interest, thank the interviewers for their time. It's okay to ask when they expect to have a decision for you. And don't forget to thank the secretary on the way out. So we kind of talked about handwritten notes. Those should be sent within 24 to 48 hours after the interview. So don't bring them with you to the interview, but definitely mail it out that same day or the next day. If you don't think a note is going to get to them before a decision is made, then you can send a professional thank you email. And your people skills matter during your interview. So if your interviewers like you, if they feel a connection with you, they're more likely to pull for you. Whether or not they realize it, they may change the tone of the interview. That might provide you more direction on the questions that they're asking. They perceive you differently. So that's where having those habits in place of being professional and outgoing can help you out. So people skills aren't going to replace your work ethic or your academics or any other talents, but they're definitely going to enhance them.
So these interviewing tips we kind of touched on in the previous slide, so I'll just touch on them just a little bit more. Again, you want to make sure, just to summarize, make sure that you're dressing to impress. Make sure that you're early, like we talked about before. Being early is on time, being on time is late, and being late means that you're probably not going to get a job. So just remember that. Make sure that you're prepared for your interview questions. If that means doing mock interviews, if that means going over some sample questions, there are a lot of resources online to find sample interview questions. So try to find some and figure out how you would answer it. When you're coming up with the answers, try to think of specific examples for situational questions so that you have those examples already to support your answers. Don't just talk in generalities. So anytime you can give a specific example is really going to help impress your interviewer because they'll be able to see that you actually did it and you're not just talking about what you would do. But make sure that you're not rehearsed in your answers. Still make sure that you're genuine in yourself. Know your application or your resume. This is extremely important because anything on your resume or application is fair game to the interviewer. I've had interviews where I've asked someone about a specific aspect of their application and they were like, oh, I don't remember putting that. That's not good if you do that. So make sure that you know what's on your resume, especially if there are any areas of concern or weakness, because those will most likely be asked about. Research the company or the school that you're applying to. So make sure that you go to their website, check them out, take a look at their mission, their values. Use that information to come up with some questions to ask at the end. Try to ask questions that you wouldn't be able to find on their website. So it could be questions about the culture or what's a day in the life of this position or this person. Things like that, things that are more personal and not something that you can actually find on the website. And then finally, practice. Make sure that you're doing your mock interviews. Make sure that you're going over those questions and figuring out what your answers would be. The more you practice, the better you're going to do whenever you actually go into the interview.
All right, so when you're following up, thank you notes really can make you stand out. I have a desk drawer full of thank you notes that people have written me, and they're personal. They mention things we talked about in the conversation. They're not just generic. So Those are a good way to help with your impression. It is acceptable to follow up on your status. Just wait until the timeline they gave you has passed. If they said it's going to be a week, don't call them the next day. So be patient and be professional with everyone you encounter. Anytime you call about a position or a program, the people you talk on the phone with, be professional with them and courteous. And then I think our wrap up here is another true and false on interview appropriateness. So we'll go through these super quickly so we can get you guys on with your evening. So true or false, you can be rude to the receptionist because she's not the one interviewing you.
They say false.
I gave you guys that answer. Correct, that's false. Relaxed posture indicates confidence. We didn't specifically talk about this one, but hopefully you guys have kind of picked up on this throughout the presentation.
I'll give you a hint. You don't want to slump.
True or false?
They said false.
That's correct. Relaxed posture probably indicates disinterest or laziness. Introduce yourself with your first and last name. True or false?
True.
Very good.
And to go along with that too, if you're talking to someone about, say, a position that you applied to, it's also probably a good idea to reference what you're not just calling about, but the position that you're calling about, or the school that you're applying to, so that they can get a frame of reference as to what it's about.
It is okay to ask for a time frame for a decision. True or false?
True.
Yep. It's okay to ask, but once you have asked, be respectful of the time frame that they gave you. And exhibiting, if you exhibit strong people skills, this can help benefit you during the interview. Exhibit strong people skills so they can benefit you during the interview. True or false?
They said true.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Okay. All right. Any questions?
Did we have any questions that came up in the chat, Elizabeth?
No, I don't believe that I saw any.
We're just that good.
Yeah. Well, if I can. Sorry, we're trying to work through some technical difficulties here. Oh. Stop sharing. There we go. Now you can see us, right?
Sorry,
Yes.
I migrated during
Perfect.
the presentation.
Okay, so no questions? All right.
Awesome.
All
I'm
right.
glad you guys learned something.
Yes,
So-
thank you. And thank you everyone for attending. We appreciate you taking your time in the evening to listen to this presentation. If you have any questions, let Elizabeth know, and we would be happy to follow up.
Great. They said thank you for your time. They learned a lot from the presentation, and I thank you as well for being willing to do this.
Awesome.
You're welcome. Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.